Neonic Void Productions presents.
Anyway, hi. Welcome to Spookocalypse, where Craig is still, after all these years, a little bitch. I'm your host, Zio. And today I'm joined with, you know them, you love them, Housekeeper and Bunyip.
Hello.
Oh, hi there.
Oh, hi there.
It was without effort.
God. Sparkling water. This is not sponsored. But if it's sponsored, call me. Before we get into today's episode, let's jump right into the housekeeping.
Oh shit, hold on.
You have a lot to cover.
It's like cardio today. So all right. If you like this podcast, make sure you follow and rate us on whatever site you listen to your podcast. Share with your friends. New episodes get uploaded every Saturday unless there's some kind of the technical mishap. Links are down in the
Shade.
description. Bitch, I wasn't even saying that. Hello, Craig could fuck up, YouTube could fuck up. Like hello, I'm not throwing shade at you, but good, like,
Shade.
congrats, you made it about yourself.
Oh.
You're so vain. Okay, I don't want to get copyrighted. New episodes get uploaded every Saturday, like I said before. Links are down in the description. For other podcasts that are part of the Neonic family, follow us on Twitter. I will never call it by that dumbass name. Our handle is at Spookocalypse. That's at SPOOKOCALYPSE. We are also on YouTube. If you're from YouTube, hi, hello, welcome. Make sure you drop a like. Subscribe. If you look at that button, it actually lights up whenever I say subscribe. Tickle, high five, punch, slap, take it out to dinner, or however you want to interact with that bell, please do. It really helps us out. And if you like this episode, make sure you drop a comment as well on whatever part you liked, or if there's a certain subject that you want us to talk about, or a certain type of movie show. We do spooky shit, but we don't bite. And our mints are going to be on the pillow. But before we start, this is not going to be a spooky episode. We are going to be going on to our Roman empires for the next few weeks. So buckle down, and we're going to be getting into that discussion.
Yes. And those of you listening, oh my God, what is the Roman Empire? We're going to explain it again because I feel like we explained it a couple weeks ago.
What's the mint on the pillow?
Oh, the mint on the pillow today.
What flavor
Oh God. Oh.
It's communion.
No, it's oh God, don't tell me. Oh God, what is that fruit?
Pomegranate.
Yes, that's what I was trying to think. I was like, oh my God, what's that fruit? Pomegranate.
Ooh,
it's pomegranate flavored.
That's amazing.
Yes. So
I shouldn't even say mints anymore. I should just say treats are on the pillow. You know what I mean?
It's old grandma strawberry, like the strawberry old grandma candies are amazing. It's pomegranate flavored to that. That actually sounds good. Actually, that was Bob.
Candy companies get on that.
Please.
Please. I want pomegranate flavored, like the strawberry candies.
Yes. So, before I get into it, housekeeper, please give us a review on what we mean by Roman Empire for those viewers and listeners that are just now tuning in for the first time.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure everybody on the internet has TikTok. Or if they don't have TikTok, they have Instagram, or they have Facebook, some kind of shorts or reels, even on YouTube. So there was a trend that was going around, for those of you who are not chronically on the internet, of where girlfriends would go to, or one partner would go to their other partner and ask them how often they think about the Roman Empire. And the theme of it usually was that, like, if it was a girlfriend going up to their boyfriend, they would think about the Roman Empire a lot more than what you thought it was. And so going up to your boyfriend or your partner or girlfriend, whoever, they, them, she, they, like he, him, them, whoever your partner is, and you ask them. So instead of going up to them and asking them what their Roman Empire was, you started thinking of, well, what was your Roman Empire? What do you think of so
Most.
often? Like what is that one thing, like as people who are very close to me like to call it, what do you go autistic about? Like, what is the tism that you have?
What flavor of tism do you have?
Like, is it trains? You
You
know,
can
there's
also
train
call it
tism,
a special interest.
a
Yeah,
special interest or a hyperfixation. But you know, we're neurospicy up in Spookocalypse, so we lovingly call it the tism.
the tism.
And so for the next few weeks, we are going to be talking about what our Roman Empire is, what our uh, tism is, what
Yeah.
our hyperfixation, whatever you want to call
Yep.
it, is for the next
Yeah.
few weeks.
Yes, to kind of give a break for the ooky spooky. And I
Sometimes,
mean, and I
sometimes we
mean,
need it.
yeah, sometimes we need it. And I mean, there could be some ooky spooky stuff with some of them, especially mine in particular, that has a little sprinkle of everything. So um today my flavor of tism, aka my Roman Empire, is something that I think about literally daily. And I'm not even kidding. On the motherfucking daily. Some
Well,
form
like
of it.
how
Mythology.
how how often in a day do you think about
Oh
this?
gosh. That's a good question.
Because like I've asked like a few, like we've asked like Indigo, right? Like what like how
Yeah.
often does he think about the Roman Empire? And he's just like, you know what? Like maybe like once or twice a day. And I'm like, what? Hello? To
I
be
would
fair,
say I think about, of course, mine's mythology. I think about mythology in some shape or form, regardless if it's from this world or if it's lore from fiction. I think about it pretty much a good portion of my day because I zone out and I daydream and I world build. And when I world build, I make lore, I make mythology, I make gods. So I think about that. And I also think about Greek, Egyptian, Abrahamic. I don't know if I could honestly put a number on how much I think about mythology. It's in my blood at this point. It's in my brain. My brain I'm like that crazy old man or that meme of me in front of a chalkboard looking at all mythologies and how they're all connected. That's me. Like at least 5 times a day, I think about
and
mythology. At
and
least.
you know what's funny is that like with my Roman Empire, like there's so much mythology in it.
Yeah.
There's so much mythology in it, and I'm like so surprised that you haven't gotten into it because of the mythology that's in my Roman Empire.
Well, when we get to your Roman Empire, that might change by the end of that episode.
But listen, there's so much. There's so much. And then now there's gonna be more coming soon, and I'm all like,
Oh God.
I don't have the money. I'm not ready. So yeah.
So, my Roman Empire mythology. Where did this fascination begin? Well, you see, there was a dyslexic child in middle school, like 8 or 9, 10, 11, somewhere around there. Greek mythology is what did it in for me. Like
Middle
all
school?
the queerdo, like elementary to middle school.
Because
Yeah.
I'm about to say I have a son who's 10 and he's going into the 5th grade. So how are you in middle school at 8 years old, my guy?
I said like somewhere between 8 to 11. It's like late elementary, early middle. Greek
Okay.
mythology. That was my
School was
shit.
a long time ago that the grades just blend together. They feel the same.
They do. They
It's
do.
like, it was about 22 years ago.
When did you start
Oh
learning about
my
trigonometry? I
God.
think I was 4.
I think I was 4,
Oh my God. This was
after
like early 2000s. Now picture in your mind, for those of you younger than if you were born in the early 2000s, I hate you. So, but
and that's a compound sentence.
I hate you. So think, if you will, back in the early 2000s, around 2000 to probably 03, maybe 04, like the early prime time 2000 new millennium. Little old Zio, who had hair, big, round, circular
Y2K.
Harry, Y2K, and then like big circular Harry Potter style glasses, a nerdy little kid who can't read for shit. And let me tell you, I fucking couldn't. At like 6th grade, I was reading at a 2nd grade level. That's how bad it was. It was bad. But I latched on to certain things. And one of those certain things was mythology, Greek mythology. And then I just dove in from there. And then as I got older through like high school and college, I dove fucking Olympic style diving into the pool of mythology. And today,
To be
I
fair,
mean,
isn't that also whenever like Percy Jackson books came out?
yes,
Like around that time?
around that time, probably more like when I was like in middle school, late middle
Well,
school,
yeah,
early
because
high school,
like
something like that.
because I remember we had to read it whenever I was in middle school, and there was only like two, maybe three books out at the time. No, there was only two books out at the time. Because I
Yeah,
remember we read the first one for like the first semester, and then we read the second one the second semester. And then Rick Riordan like visited our middle school, and I got my book signed by
yes.
him. It was so fucking cool.
Well, he
Like,
used to live here
yeah,
in our current city, in our
yeah,
city that we live in. I don't think he does anymore, but he used to.
he used to, and he was cool.
Yeah. But so yeah, that's where my obsession began, and it only got worse as I got older. And now here we are, me. One of my dreams is when I'm like 70, I want to have a doctorate degree in mythology, and I want to go have tenure and be that kooky old man in some university somewhere teaching mythology, dressing up as Thor, as dressing up as a god each day, talking about whatever I'm talking about. Because I could ramble. I mean, I have a whole podcast on it. Granted, that podcast is. I'm going to bring
On
that back to
hiatus.
life. I'm going to bring that back to life. It's just, I'm probably just going to do it by myself. I'm just going to ramble. I could do it. It's fine.
Are
But
you sure about that?
I could do it. I think I could do it. So, I mean, I'm playing around with the idea of what I want to do with Tea of the Gods. Description and this link tree below, you'll see the link to Tea of the Gods. The very first podcast, I started all of this. And we deep dived into mythology, the lore, the stories from like Greek, Norse. I think we stopped at Egyptian before we went on hiatus.
We were gonna go to
The Abrahamic religion.
the Abrahamic religions, which it can be a touchy subject because
Yeah.
Abrahamic religions are still very, very
Yeah.
active
Yeah.
today, obviously. And
Yeah.
so calling it mythology would be like, like very religious people are not going to be happy about calling it mythology, but we're just looking at it from
A mythology standpoint.
an educational point of view, right?
Mhm.
Like it's comparative religion. Like if you ever took that class in like high school or college, you know, like
Just
we're
because
just
something's called mythology doesn't mean that it's
a
it's
myth.
not it's not calling your story, it's not calling your religion fake, because mythology at its core is a collection of myths, especially ones belonging to a particular religion or culture or tradition or a combination of all three. So just because something is considered mythology doesn't mean the religion's not, it's false, it's a lie. It doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean any of that.
And we're not like
No.
thinking any less of what it is,
Nope.
especially because like
Nope.
you know, we know so many people who are extremely religious,
Yes.
and you know, we also respect each other's views.
Yes.
So just to put that out there, we're not trying to like attack anybody. We're not.
So good thing we got that out of the way, because I was about to address that, because the stuff I'm going to be talking about today is going to be going all over the place, including the Abrahamic religions. Now, again, if you are a practitioner of Catholicism or Christianity or Judaism or Islam or a pagan religion, I am talking about these stories as if they're just stories. I am analyzing it from a story standpoint, not from, oh, is this religion legit or not. So I'm not doing this to insult anybody's viewpoints or religious views or religious upbringings in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking at it from a worldview and how everything crosses over with each other, because there are going to be certain things I'm going to talk about that are going to be very heresy, people would say. People from the 1700s will call it heresy.
Well, people would call it heresy today too.
Yeah, true. But yeah, no, you're right. So to start off on this mystical journey of mythology, every mythology has one thing in common: a creation story. Now, I'm not going to go over each and every creation story of every single mythology, because let me tell you, we'll be here all day, I'll be here all night, and you'll probably be sitting here for next week as I talk about them all. But I'm going to talk about a few of them. Starting off with the OG mythology that started it all for me, Greek mythology. Now, I do have episodes on the Greek myth, the Norse myth, and the Egyptian myths in the Tea of the Gods podcast if you want to go listen to a more detailed version of those. But to give you kind of the dumbed down version of some of these creation stories, starting with the Greek mythology. Greek mythology's creation story basically starts off as chaos. Chaos is basically emptiness, nothingness, a void. And then from that void, boop, Earth was created, or Gaia, as she is named, a primordial god. Then from there, all these other primordial gods and goddesses came about. You got Nyx, you got Uranus, you got Eros. But Eros is Uranus is the sky, Nyx is the night. Eros is love, but Eros is a very complicated story with that, because Eros is also connected to the god of love, which is or the Roman version Cupid. So there's a whole debate if Eros is a god that was born during the Olympians, or if he was if he's a primordial deity. So, because he's not necessarily an Olympian, but he's one of the lesser gods of the Greek pantheon. But there's a whole discourse about if he's a primordial god or if he's not, because some versions of the creation story have Eros in him while others do not. So it's a lot of back and forth on where he stands, because there's some stories that he's the child of Aphrodite, and there's others where he's older than Aphrodite. Of course, there's also different origins for Aphrodite too, with like the Titans and shit. So, from the primordial gods, Gaia and Uranus had a bunch of kids. They popped out kids like it was no one's business. The Titans. There was 6 males and 6 females, 6 gods and goddesses of each. So 12 children in total were all birthed from Uranus. And of course, one of the other gods, primordial gods I forgot about that I did not mention was Tartarus. Tartarus is also a primordial deity that was born from chaos. So, Titans came about. Cool, great. Kronos and Rhea. They got married. They got married and had a bunch of kids. The Olympians. Kronos got a prophecy that one of his kids is going to overthrow him. So what did he do? He decided, I'm going to eat my children. I'm going to eat them.
I was going to say he inspired a painting by Francisco Goya.
Yes, he sure did. Nom. He's like, I'm going to eat them. And you're like, what? So he decided to eat one of his kids, each of his children as they are popping out. Like, what? This is also after he overthrown his own father, Uranus. So the Titans overthrew Uranus, and Gaia was siding with her children, the Titans. And so this is where the creation story of Aphrodite comes about, because of Kronos decided to cut his father's balls off, aka the sky, and the testicles, imagine if you will, the testicles fall into the ocean. The foam from said testicles create Aphrodite, the goddess of love, which in that story she'd be considered Uranus's sex drive, which I find hilarious. But again, that's one version of Aphrodite's birth, while the other one, it's Zeus and Hera. So it just depends on which one you look at, because let me tell you, there's a bunch of different stories with these gods. So back to Kronos eating his kids, because he's like, oh shit, I'm not going to have one of my kids overthrow me like I overthrow my daddy. So he's like, I'm going to eat them up. Munch, munch, crunch, crunch, ate them all. Rhea gave birth to her last child, a little bouncing baby boy who's a dick. Well, he's a dick when he gets older. So she's like, oh God, I can't. I have to save him. So she gives him a rock. She puts a rock in like a little blanket and she hands it to Kronos, and Kronos eats the rock, thinking he ate the baby. And then Rhea is like, I'm going to go hide him away somewhere. So she hides him away, and I can't remember who raised him. Was it Hecate? No, it wasn't Hecate. Somebody raised him. Another god raised him. I don't remember which one. That's going to piss me off. I'm looking. I don't think it was Hecate. Google, who watched Zeus after Rhea saved? No, that does not tell me. Who looked after baby Zeus? Oh, a couple nymphs looked after baby Zeus. So a couple nymphs watched over him until he got older. And then what did Zeus do? Zeus, being Zeus, decided to overthrow his father. He cut him open and released all his siblings. And then, of course, he killed Kronos. And there was a whole war between the Olympians and the Titans, which, you know, the Throma Theo. How do I pronounce that? Theogonia? Give me a second. It's the word for the war. It's what they describe the war. How to say Theogony. Theogony was the war between the Olympians and the. Right? No, it was the Theogony was the poem. Anyway, there's a war between.
Titanomachy?
Yes, that. That is the war between the Titans and the Olympians. The Olympians win, obviously, and Zeus becomes the head cheese in charge. So the three brothers. Then we get into the three brothers. Of course, at this point, this is the creation story. At this point, we're pretty much coming to where everything that we know of is. So you got Hades, who's the oldest, Poseidon, who's the middle brother, and then you got Zeus, who is the youngest of the big three. They decided to split up the sky, the sea, and the underworld. Zeus got the sky, Poseidon got the sea, and then Hades was left with the underworld. My personal opinion, Hades got screwed because he is technically not part of the 12, the Olympians, because there's this whole stigma with Hades. Of course, it's like that with with a lot of the death gods, like Anubis. For example, Anubis is the same as Hades. People see him as this demonic entity of some kind, evil. I mean, you see Hades is depicted as that in the Disney movie, of course, but honestly, that's not the case at all. It's really the other way around. Because Zeus is the problem child, while Hades just minds his own goddamn business. So the three brothers get split off: the sky, earth, and the sea. Well, the underworld, sea, and the sky. And then what's really funny is after the Titans were taken down and the Olympians came into power, Gaia, their grandmother, mind you, the primordial goddess, the representation of the earth. She got pissed. She's like, oh, I know you didn't defeat my babies, which is funny because she helped them do it. But she got pissed. She's like, nah, I don't like this. We're not doing this shit. So she releases herders, monsters, to try giants, quote unquote, to try and overthrow the Olympians. It didn't work, obviously. But I find it funny because Gaia is the one that helped him in the first place overthrow Kronos and the other Titans. And she's like, I don't like it. I don't like any of this. Y'all icky. And it's like, let me just send monsters at you to fucking try to kill you. It didn't work. So. And then from there, the Olympians, as we know them, for all the major stories from Medusa to freaking Odysseus to Perseus, Hercules. If you can learn one thing from Greek mythology, if I had to pick one thing, learn that Hera is a bitch. Yep. Hera is a bitch. Mm-hmm. If you had to learn one thing that stuck with you, keep that in your head always. Hera's a bitch. She is the biggest bitch of any mythology, in my personal opinion. I hate her so much. A goddess of motherhood? Girl, where? Bitch, where? Punishing the women that your husband throws themselves at instead of, I don't know, handling your husband? Okay. All right. I have a deep hatred for Hera. And when you listen to the podcast, Tea of the Gods, you're going to discover I have a deep hatred for Hera. And I always will. You can't change my mind. Let's see. What else about Greek mythology? Other little fun facts. Roman mythology and Greek mythology are very similar. The big differences are obviously the names. The Greek gods, when they repurposed into Roman mythology, they're named after the planets. And in mythology, their stories are more war-driven. The gods are more war-hungry than the Greek ones. Outside of that, it's pretty much it. I mean, a lot of the stories are very similar. A good example, to get into more of the meat and potatoes of why I hate Hera. So Hera gave birth to kids. One of her kids being Hephaestus. Apparently, Hephaestus was born from Hera. From either Hera, Zeus, or Hera by herself. When the baby came out, she looked at it and she's like, ugh, you ugly. And she threw him off of Mount Olympus. I'm not kidding. She threw him off Mount Olympus because he was so ugly, so hideous to her. And she was like, yeet. What's also kind of funny is a good chunk of the 12 Olympians are all products of Zeus's adultery. They're all products of Zeus just throwing themselves at mortal women and birthing children one way or another. Apollo, Artemis, the twins. You got Hermes. You got, I think, Athena in a weird way, roundabout way, because I think I'm pretty sure it was Athena. He ate a woman or some shit, and she was pregnant, and then he got a major migraine, and poop pops out Athena of his head. Going on a weird tangent of talking about Zeus's kids. My favorite one of his kids is Dionysus. Make a note of that. We're going to go back to Dionysus in a moment. Dionysus is quote unquote the god of wine, air quotes, because if you look at the traditional viewing of the Greek mythology and their stories as we know them, you would see Dionysus as the god of wine. But in the Orphic mythology, which is an earlier version of those stories in a much older Greece, Dionysus is more like a god of rebirth. He's more of a prominent god than just being the god of wine. But again, put a pin in Dionysus because we're going to get back to him. Going over to the Egyptian mythology. Egyptian mythology's creation story. Granted, Egyptians' lore is it's like Greece, the Greek. A lot of different versions of the story because, well, the Egyptians are much older than the Greeks as far as a civilization and the society. So their mythology goes way further back. So you got multiple different versions. But basically, everything was created because Ra decided to masturbate and ejaculate the universe. Or spitting. Or he spat the universe out of his mouth, one or the other. There's different versions, but my favorite one's the whole how he just came into the universe, you know?
Well, then that kind of begs the question: how many other universes exist because Ra just had to rub one out every so often?
Yeah, God, who fucking knows? But yeah, Ra just had to rub one out, and he created the universe. He created the act of creation and shit, and then from there, the sun, the earth, the sky, other gods, the two rivers, like the Nile, like it's a pretty funny creation story because I find it quite funny that one of the big versions of the creation story is Ra rubbing one out, and then it creates everything from there. But who am I to say what's right and what's wrong? Because again, there's multiple versions of the Egyptian creation story. There's that one that's probably my favorite, and then there are others that talk about the creation of the Nile and how everything spans from the Nile, and then the earth and the sky, moisture, air, and all that fun stuff. I'm not going to go too much into Egyptian mythology because Egyptian mythology, out of the big three, is the one I know the least about because of it being so, I don't want to say convoluted, how there's so many different versions of the same story that it's a lot, in my opinion, it's a little more difficult to get into Egyptian mythology, even though unlike some mythologies, we have majority of their stories. Unlike when we go over to Norse mythology, which we have a lot of it, but there's also a bunch of it that's gone, gutted because of Catholicism. So this is where we get into the mythologies that were repurposed or just basically ripped to shreds by the introduction to Catholicism to Europe. I can get into a whole conversation about Celtic mythology, but I don't think y'all want me to scream rant for 20 minutes on how they destroyed that mythology of my ancestors. But I'm sure I rant about it somewhere in the podcast of Tea of the Gods. You can find the rant there. I'm sure it's like 30 minutes of me ranting about it. So, the creation story for Norse mythology, Odin, not Zeus, oh my God, Odin, Thor, all that fun stuff. So, in the creation story, the origin of the cosmos, according to Norse mythology, is that before soil and sky and anything green, there was the abyss of chaos known as, oh my God, oh God, give me a second. Some of these pronunciations, mind you, I am not an expert on how to say these words and how to say some of these terms. Because Norse mythology gets very, it's a lot when it comes to trying to say some of these terms from the old mythology. Is Ginnungagap, I think is how it's pronounced. It's basically an abyss of chaos, kind of like it's very similar to the Greek story. Chaos is perfect silence, darkness, lay between the homeland and the eternal flame, which there's a name of the eternal flame, which is basically it's the realm of it's the home. It's one of the 9 worlds and the home of the fire giants. Muspelheim, and then the home of the elemental ice, which is Niflheim. So you have Chaos, Muspelheim, and then Niflheim. If I mispronounced that, I am so sorry. Niflheim, I think I got, but the home of the fire giants, I might have mispronounced. Nonetheless, Frost and Niflheim and the fire from Muspelheim crept towards each other until they met in the void of chaos. Amid the hissing and splitting, the fire melted the ice and drops formed themselves into Ymir, the first godlike giant. Now, Ymir is a hermaphrodite giant, and he reproduces asexually. When he slept, more giants leapt forth from his legs and from his sweat of his armpits. So, imagine, if you will, a giant melts from the ice and fire of the home of the fire giants and home of the ice giants. And these water droplets form a giant in the vat of cosmos. And as this giant sleeps, because he's a hermaphrodite, or they are hermaphrodite, as he sleeps, giants would come forth from his legs as well as from the sweat of his armpits. And as the frost continued to melt, a cow emerged from it. The cow's name is... God, I used to be able to say these names. Hummel. Basically, it's a cow, and she gave nourishment to Ymir with her milk. And from there, she would lick the salt. She would lick the salt from the ice that was melting from Niflheim. And then her lick slowly uncovered a first god, or Buri, the first god from the Aesir tribe. So the gods, there are 2 tribes of gods. There's the Aesir, and then there's the Aesir and the Vanir.
Yeah, like Aesir and Vanir.
Yeah, Aesir and Vanir, yes. Those are the 2 tribes of gods that we see in Norse mythology. And the first god from the Aesir group was Buri. And he had a son named Bor, who married Bestla, and the daughter of the giant Bothorn. And the half-god, half-giant children of Bor and Bestla were Odin. So Odin was born from the first child from some of these giants that were born from Ymir. So that makes Odin half Aesir, half giant. So from there, he became the chief of the Aesir gods with his 2 brothers, Vili and Vi. Odin and his brothers slaved Ymir and made the world from his corpse. They made the oceans out of his blood. They made the soil from his skin and muscle. They made vegetation from his hair. They made his brain. They used his brains to make clouds. They made the sky from his skull. And what was holding up the skull were 4 dwarves that represent, of course, north, south, east, and west. The 4 cardinal directions. So there are these 4 dwarves are holding up the skull, holding up the sky. And maybe asking yourself, dwarves? Wait, you mean the little guys? Well, dear listener, this is where it gets fucking weird. So the dwarves, there is no depiction told of the dwarves as like little people, if that makes sense. And that was one of the fascinating things about learning about Norse mythology when doing Tea of the Gods, when we were up to that point, was the fact that the dwarves could have been a couple different things. The dwarves could have been from the land of the Darkfields, or like the home of the Dark Elves. So there are some theories that the dwarves might have been another name for Dark Elves. The dwarves could have been the undead, because there's a couple stories that mention them. Of course, the dwarves make weapons like they always do in typical lore from Norse mythology. But there's some stories that the dwarves are undead. There are some stories that the dwarves are these invisible creatures that don't come out of a cave, because they get hit by sunlight, they will die, basically. So there's a lot of interesting theories on what the dwarves were, because the depiction of the dwarves that we know of today did not come from Norse mythology. That was from popular culture. I've heard people say it was Tolkien that started the whole the depiction of the dwarves, but Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, the movie was created before. I think it was created before Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Let me double check.
Are you sure about that?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarves was made in 1937, the Disney movie, and then Lord of the Rings, or the Hobbit, because the Hobbit came first, right?
1937.
Came out the same year. Okay, so it might have been. It might have been.
The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit wrote before Lord of the Rings. Hobbit was published in 1937. Lord of the Rings was published in 1954. Wait, but when was Snow White?
1937.
What month?
It was December 21st, 1937.
Tolkien won September 21st, 1937.
Damn. Okay, I wonder who made the first depiction of the dwarf then.
Are you considering like when the Snow White story was published, like not just the animated feature, but the original Brothers Grimm fairy tale?
Not necessarily.
Well, we don't know exactly how the Brothers Grimm fairy tale actually depicts what the dwarfs look like.
They look kind of small in this picture I'm looking at.
It might have been back. It might have been back then, because the depiction of the dwarves that we have today wasn't from the Norse mythology. It was from something else that was further down the line. I know people say it was Tolkien, but I don't think it was Tolkien. I think it was way before him, and I think it was even before the Brothers Grimm. Because in the Norse mythology, the dwarves weren't depicted as small people. They're depicted more as like either, again, another name for the dark elves, or undead. There's a couple of different theories running about on what the dwarves were.
Brothers Grimm published their book in 1812. And it has the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And in the artwork, they're like about waist high.
Yeah.
But honestly, they don't look like the type of dwarfs that we know today. Like the type of dwarfs that we know today are, they are short in stature, but they're also like, they're beefy. They're also like very hairy. Men and women alike are both very hairy when it comes to dwarfs.
It might have been from the Germanic people,
Yes.
Germanic mythology. That utilized the whole little people thing, the little men that are dwarves in mythology. So it was the Germans that utilized that. They gave us the interpretation of the dwarves we have today, or at least the starting point, I should say, the starting point of what we have today. Because the Norse mythology, the dwarves are somewhere between the elves, dead humans. The lines are very blurry. Again, it's because we don't have everything from Norse mythology, because a lot of it is ceased to exist now because of the introduction to Catholicism into the region.
So, like, even like artwork of the dwarves from Norse mythology, does depict them as small beings. So, like, and from what I've been looking up on that, dwarves come from Norse and Germanic mythologies. So, like, it could be a mix of both. Like,
Probably.
so the dwarfs that we have today, came from a mix of both, like, Norse and Germanic. So,
Probably. Because
because it does have because you can see a lot of German, influence
yeah,
in the dwarfs that we have today.
which, ladies and gentlemen, others, many of the old religions, and even honestly, again, not to disrespect the modern day religions, a lot of them take from much older religions that came before, which we will get into. So the fact that some of this crosses over is not very far fetched.
Well, I
It's
mean, giants are mentioned in the Bible.
yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Giants are mentioned in the Bible, which says a lot because, like, people think of giants as mythology, right?
Yeah,
And I'm all like, well, like, there are people who believe that what has been said in the Bible is 100% true. Everything that happened in the Bible is true. And I'm like, where the fuck are the giants?
where are the giants? Where are the sea monsters? Where are the dragons?
Where are they? Well, there was actually there was a
I was gonna
oh
say, did they make it on Noah's boat?
oh so
They didn't make the
so
trip.
wait, hold on, because this is mythology that, like, I just learned, and it made, like, I think about this daily now. Like, I thought about this during my fucking workout today. Okay, so, like, this is to add on to you. Like, I'm so excited for this
Mhm.
story because someone I'm very, very close to told me the story, and he
Go
also
for it.
showed me a video of this. So, this is a story that he learned whenever he was on, I don't know if it was whenever he was in the Air Force Academy. Not He wasn't attending the Air Force Academy. He was doing, like, training in the forest around Air Force Academy, and they stayed there, or if it was actually on the base that he was actually located at. But there was a story about these soldiers who were in the Middle East, and I think they were SEALs. I think they were SEALs, or they were some, like, high up, like, it could have been like Navy SEALs, it could have been the Green Berets, like one of the high up, the
I
very
have the food
secret.
chain.
Yes, like
Top secret shit.
yeah, top secret shit. And they were sent out because one of their teams, like, because you know how they have, like, alpha team, beta team,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. One of their teams, kind of went AWOL. They couldn't get a hold of him. There was radio silence, everything like that. So they sent another team to, like, the caves that they were inspecting, and as they were, like, climbing up, like, this cliffside that was in the Middle East. I don't remember exactly where. This was, like, a while back ago, and I can find a video on it because there is somebody who was part of the team who has done this interview. Like, he's saying this story. Um, they start to find, like, gear. Like, they find gear, and they find uniforms with patches that they recognize. And as they get closer and closer to it, they get to this cave. And whenever they go into the cave, they encounter something that's not normal. Like, this is, like, they literally encounter someone who's like five times bigger than they are, and wielding what looks to be like a spear that has just been made out of, like, whatever this creature could have, like, grabbed a hold of. And, like, not a spear, or like a bow and arrow. I don't remember, like finer details, but he got, like, this weapon and started to fucking attack this other team, the team that was, like, sent out to And like they were like shooting at it and shooting at it and shooting at it and shooting at it, and nothing, like these bullets were not hurting this fucker. Like he had like on like makeshift armor from like things that he found around the desert and stuff, and like killed off multiple people from this team, and they had to like fucking like leave. And whenever they filled out like the report of what happened, like higher ups told them like, we can't submit this report, we have to submit something else. We are not like they believe what they saw, but they're like, we cannot turn this in, like this has to be like top, like no one can talk about this. So like they shut it down. They're like, nope, like this is top secret, no one is ever going to know about this story. And change the report so that the stuff that's like on official papers did not represent what they actually saw. And the guy's like, that was a fucking giant, like we were shooting at a giant. I will find this video because I just got shown this like literally about a few months ago.
Oh, the story of giants.
Like I was like, like there's like, I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. But then of course, like there's been videos that have been popping up recently of like, oh, like I saw this fucking rock move whenever I was hiking and saw a giant peeking out from behind it. But like this was like a fucking Navy SEAL. Yeah. Or, you know, a beret, whoever it was, fucking saw. I gotta find this video. I gotta find this video. Hold on.
Yeah, no, the stories of giants and stuff. I mean, as I see it, mythology has stories to explain the world around them. So there is something out there that spawned the idea for people to describe a giant. There is some truth to it somewhere, in some way, shape, or form.
So it was Army Special Forces. I'm sorry.
Army Special Forces.
Army Special Forces, which is why the person I was very close to was able to tell the story, because this is a story that has been told within the Army.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully the link will be down in the description if you want. It's about a 14-minute video by the YouTube creator Mr. Ballin. He is known for a lot of his military content. Well, not just military content, but like he tells like a lot of, he's also a very spooky, he talks about strange, dark, and mysterious stories and stuff like that, but he's also like a military person himself. But yeah, he's cool. I like his videos a lot. Shout out to Mr. Ballin.
The link will be in the description below if you want to partake in that video.
Yes.
So there's more mythology. While we're on the topic of giants, let me get over the Catholicism or Christianity's creation story. 7 days, God created the earth and the world, the universe in 7 days. Day 1, light. Day 2, the sky. Day 3, earth, sea, and vegetation. Day 4, the sun and the moon. Day 5, animals of air and sea. And then, of course, day 6, land, animals, and humans. And then God decided to rest on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath. He's like, I'm going to chill for a day. I did a lot of work. I'm tired. Let me just take a day. And then basically, bada bing, bada boom, there's 7 days. Adam and Eve. We all know the story of Adam and Eve. I'm not going to go too much into the creation story of Christianity, because I'm sure majority of us listeners know the creation story some way, shape, or form. Some of the fun, interesting ones, though, alternative ones, though, is there's this whole concept of God that's like logos and agon, so like speech and combat. It's weird. And then he fought a bunch of these sea monsters. So how he defeated the forces of chaos from these different sea monsters, which is Yam, which is the sea, Yahar, which is the river, Leviathan, which is the coiled one, Rahab, which is the arrogant one, and then Tanine, which is the dragon. So there's a couple different apparently there's some different biblical creation accounts in the Bible, but basically, yeah, Earth was created, the universe was created in 7 days, 6 days, and then 1 day to rest. Let me tell you, God, the monotheistic God, he created a little Leviathan. This is not a creation story. This is just a story. He created one of his first creations was a sea serpent they put in the ocean, and then he's like, "I don't like you anymore," and then smited it. It bit him, and he's like, "Ew, I don't like you." Smite. Yeah. God, Old Testament God is metal, ruthless. He didn't become the cool dad until the New Testament. Can the resident raised Catholic confirm or deny?
Wait, I'm sorry.
God in the Old Testament was metal and ruthless, while the New Testament God was, I'm the cool dad.
That, and like they also took a lot of rules, let's say, out of the Old Testament. Like
Yeah.
whenever they put in the New Testament, they're like, no, this rule is retarded. We're not going to do that anymore. Mistranslations happened as well. So like
Yeah.
it went from thou shall not, well, not like thou shall not, but like I can't say it word for word, so don't come at me for this. But this is a big, like, it's been a huge thing in arguments where it says like do not lie with a child as you would or a boy. It says a boy as you would a woman, and they changed it to like don't commit sodomy.
Yeah.
And the like it was actually properly saying like don't lay with the child, don't be fucking disgusting, and do that shit with children like you would a grown ass fucking woman, like an adult. That's what the original Old Testament was saying, and then they changed it to that in the New Testament. Whenever the New Testament started to become published, which I think was in the 70s, if I am not mistaken. Yes.
New Testament was
Put together. Oh, they say that it was first put together in 325 AD, which that's a fucking lie. They're saying the stories came from 70 AD, but like the actual the whatever's being published today, like all of the new print that's coming out today started in the 70s. Just saying.
But yeah, so going into the Abrahamic religions, some of the fun stuff in there. Adam and Eve. Adam had a first wife, Lilith. Lilith was created the same way Adam was. Adam's equal. She's like, she wasn't obedient, and she got kicked out of Eden. Became a demon, mother of demons, mother of monsters, demonized, hardcore. And there's also documentation of like, again, Lilith was in some of the Abrahamic texts, mostly I think Jewish texts. But even before then, Lilith is also a reference to an actual type of demon, so that might have been brought in to and then repurposed for the talk of Adam's first wife and that story. Now, how she became the mother of demons. There's also theories that succubus are also linked to Lilith. or Lilith became a succubus, something along those lines. There's a couple different demons that can go by the name Lilith or have some tie to the word Lilith. There's that. One of my favorite conversations to have when it comes to the Abrahamic religion, especially with Christianity, is the idea that Lucifer and Satan are the same person, same entity, when there's also evidence that says that they're not, and people just assume it is. They are. It's one of my favorite things to read into and then ask people about, because they get their opinions on it. Because it's so interesting and weird on how, because Lucifer technically is only mentioned once in the Bible when he fell from heaven. Lucifer, aka the morning star. And then from that point, it's the devil or Satan, and they mention that Satan fell from heaven. So people obviously put two and two together that, oh, Lucifer and Satan might be the same person or same entity, just a different name. There's a story called Paradise Lost that basically kind of engraved that in people's heads, people's minds, and that's what really kind of put the nail in the coffin on what led people to think that, and I think Dante's Inferno too. Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost. A lot with Paradise Lost.
You know what I don't get is like the depictions of, and like this is not me loving on him, okay? Just putting that out there. Like, so they, like the Bible says that Lucifer was one of the most beautiful angels ever. He is his beauty is unmatched.
Yeah.
And whenever they depict him, it's always like this ugly, demonic, scary looking being, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm all like, they never really said in the book that his looks changed, right? Like, they never said in the Bible that his looks changed whenever he fell from heaven. So like, he could still be the most beautiful fucking angel that you've ever fucking seen. The most beautiful being ever. Now, again, I'm not saying that as like this, putting that out there. I'm not saying that as like a what is it? A worshiper or a lover of like like Satan, the devil, Lucifer, or whatever, whoever you want to identify him as. Like, I'm just saying, like, hey, in the book, it does say that he is a very gorgeous being, and not only that, but he's also the angel of music.
Yeah.
That means all music, by the way. So any music that you listen to, just letting you know, is devil's music, because he's the one, you know.
Well, the depiction of the way we depict the devil now, or Lucifer, Satan, Baphomet, because that's another fun fact. Baphomet sometimes used to describe Satan, Lucifer.
Baphomet. I'm sorry.
Baphomet.
I love that video so much. That kid is like the greatest kid ever.
The depiction of Satan that we know of today, the half goat, half human demon, is not from that time period of when the text was originally made. That is something from, like, I think the medieval. It's from a time much later. I think it was the medieval, either the medieval times or right after that. It was like right before modern day, that the depiction of the devil that we see of today. And I find it funny that it's a satyr. And I'm like, is that supposed to be a repurposation of Pan?
I mean, if it goes back to whenever we reviewed, which was like last episode, whenever we talked about late night with the devil or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like Christianity, like as a whole, right? I'm talking like all the branches that go under worshiping God and Jesus, and like the whole story of the Bible itself. They did repurpose a lot of gods and a lot of from different religions, and repurpose them to make to have them be demons or be demonic, because that was like, honestly, how else will you have them worship one god than to make other gods be the evil ones,
Yeah.
to be the demons?
I think the first depiction of the devil that we have today was from the Codex Gigas from the 13th century. I think it was like early 13th century. It's the one that apparently a monk made the whole book of the devil in one night, the Devil's Bible. And it has a big old page of a image of a demon. And I think that is the very first depiction of the devil shown as that, like how we know him today. Or kind of started that. So also the Christianity is I think it's because Judaism doesn't have the devil nor a hell in any sense. Yeah, it's a Christianity created thing, which I find interesting too, because the Abrahamic religions, Judaism came first, Christianity, and then Islam came last, is the youngest of the three. But Judaism doesn't have hell or the devil. They have something else that I cannot think of right. But they have something completely different going on. But with Christianity, and of course, if I'm wrong, please let me know. Let me know. I'm not stating this from fact. I'm saying this from like just doing my own personal research. And again, I could be wrong. So don't come for me. I could be wrong. I'm just learning as I go in this world. Because I know when we get to the Abrahamic religions, it's a very touchy subject, as we were mentioning before. So I'm not coming for you all or your religion in any way, sense of the word. But yeah, I find it interesting that the whole evolution of Lucifer, Satan, the devil, Baphomet, Beelzebub. Beelzebub's also another name that was thrown around for Satan too. Satan and Lucifer. So it's a lot of like different names for different things. And some of these guys are also from older mythologies. I mean, Lucifer comes from, it's also another word for Venus, the brightest star in the sky. From an older mythos as well.
Venus was also a goddess.
Yes, that too. So that Lucifer, as far as the word and term when it comes to a mythos, came way before Christianity or any of the Abrahamic religions. And I like the idea that I find it absurd that just because Lucifer is in hell doesn't mean he wouldn't still be the most beautiful angel ever. He wouldn't lose that beauty. He'd just be in hell. And the depiction of the goat man, again, might be something pulled from a pagan mythology, Pan, whatever have you. I don't know if it's Pan. I just say because Pan was the most prominent satyr as far as a god, because he was a god in the Greek mythos. So who's to say? From there, we get into the conversation, since like Lucifer, Satan being the same, maybe not the same, because there's evidence for both. Now we're going to get into the conversation. My second favorite thing to talk about is the similarities between Jesus Christ and Dionysus. Now remember, I said put a pin in Dionysus, because now here we are. Dionysus, aka the god of wine. Now again, Dionysus, in a much older take on the Greek mythos, the Orphic Greek mythos. I think that was the age where Zeus wasn't the head god in charge. In that take of the mythology, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Poseidon that was the big god in that one. That was a much older, ancient Greek take. Dionysus in that one was more of a god of rebirth. Of course, he died, came back, kind of same like he was in the new one. Titans ripped him to shreds, or Hera. And the typical story we know, Dionysus was ripped to pieces by Titans that Hera sent to kill him, because again, as another child from Zeus, as an adult, adultering ass. She decided to go have him killed. She had him killed. He took whatever remains he had. Zeus took whatever remains he could find of the baby and sewed it into his leg. And then from there, Zeus gave birth to Dionysus. Now, the comparisons between Dionysus and Jesus Christ is obviously death and rebirth, dying and then rising, that archetype of mythology. They're both carpenters, which is kind of, again, funny. Basically their stories are very similar. Of course, you can also say the same thing about, I think it was Horus, Dionysus, and Jesus all have very similar stories. And it's one of those things where you can, I'm not saying you shouldn't ignore it or you should ignore it, but the parallels are there. Now, I go in more detail with that on an actual episode of the podcast for Tea of the Gods. So there's a whole episode dedicated to just that. And I go in more detail with Dionysus and his comparisons to Jesus and all of that fun stuff. There's a whole episode dedicated to just that on the pod. So you want more detailed explanation on what I found when I was doing research on this a couple of years ago for it, it's right in there for you. From there, gosh, where do I go from here? Oh, the Book of Enoch. Do any of you know about the Book of Enoch?
I mean, it sounds familiar, but I don't think I've really delved into it.
Housekeeper?
Same.
So the Book of Enoch is one of those many books that was taken out of the Bible by the Catholic Church. It's not considered biblical canon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is the book where Enoch wrote about these group of angels known as the Watchers came down to earth and mated with human women and made these giants, their offspring known as Nephilim. And supposedly this is the reason why God flooded the earth, was to get rid of the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch is insanity. Let me just say that right here, right now. This shit is insane. When you really look into it, I will post some video links to different YouTube videos that go in more detail with it. This shit's insane. It's insane. And to continue on this insane train, there's also other books that were taken out of the Bible, of course, some of which talked about the life of Jesus Christ. That he had a wife and kids, and he lived a whole life as a human. Obviously, they took that out for reasons. There's also the whole, not angels and demons. Oh God, what was that movie called? It's the first one. Oh my God, Angels and Demons was the second book in that story in that trilogy. Oh God, Angels and Demons. It was.
Oop, that's not what I wanted.
The Da Vinci Code.
Oh, never mind.
So the Da Vinci Code, this movie, obviously Da Vinci Code is a book. It's a fictional mystery book. But there's actually some mystery actually surrounding that, the whole bloodline of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. People theorize that obviously they took this is all theory. This is all just speculation on why they took out some of the books of the Bible. Again, not coming for your viewpoints or your religious views on Jesus Christ as a deity. But there's a book. There's some stories and shit that are taken out of the Bible talking about how he married Mary Magdalene and he has kids and descendants and has a whole family line. And that apparently, obviously, this is a conspiracy theory. Theory goes that his line even comes to today. That you can trace his bloodline to people today in this world. And I find that interesting. Regardless if it's true or not, I find it quite an interesting little tidbit. There's also stuff talking about how Peter wasn't the one that was supposed to inherit the church. It was Mary Magdalene that was supposed to be the head of the church, not Peter. And that kind of goes with the whole idea that Mary was painted as a prostitute in the Bible, demonized basically by Peter to kind of take what he wanted. There's a whole theory around that. Of course, there's also a book of Mary. There's a book of Magdalene too that was in the Bible that they took out. It's not part of biblical canon. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on around Jesus and Mary and Peter and how the church was formed and how it was handled and how the person that started it was not the one that was supposed to be left in charge of it.
Sorry, I got distracted because you were talking about what is this film, and I was immediately thinking of this clip from Legion.
Oh my god!
I can link the clip.
Oh my god! Is it Legion? You mean the one with the? Yes, that with the grandma. Your baby's gonna burn.
Ugh, I hate it. I hate it.
And
That
that
lady
is
freaked me out, dude.
And that's another thing. The movie Legion. Not the movie Legion directly, but like what's in it. So the movie Legion is the lady we're talking about is the whole scene where this woman's pregnant. And I don't even know why they're after her. It's like she's the one giving birth to the first child in what, decades or some shit?
I don't remember. I haven't watched that movie in years.
The grandma's kind of concerned that the woman's unmarried. She's like, well, I don't need a man. I was like, well, your baby's going to burn. I'm sorry, what was that? I said your fucking baby's going to burn.
And the whole thing with that movie is that these monsters that are trying to attack this woman they're angels. They're not demons. They're angels. Angels and demons are a very interesting concept because you see people, obviously in the Bible and in artwork, dealing around these biblical scenes. You see angels depicted as these beautiful humanoid figures with wings, and they come down. Thou shalt not be afraid.
Please, be not afraid. Yeah, if you fucking see 10 wings and 5,000 eyes floating around, you're kind of gonna be scared.
Yeah. Well, the Nephilim are giants that were birthed from angels and humans mating. That's something totally different. That's a book of Enoch. Anyway, but angels, girl, angels are weird. You think demons are terrifying, girl. I'm more scared of the angels. Multi-headed creatures, giant eyeballs, wheels on fire with wings. Like it's ridiculous up there. Like, hello?
But aren't they supposed to be able to shapeshift? Why don't they just change into something that's a little bit more relatable for the humans to actually interact with?
That's why you get the images of like the beautiful man, or beautiful humanoid, a very androgynous humanoid, might I add. Oh, and it's interesting when you start looking into like the weirdness of the angels. And honestly, again, I think the angels are more terrifying looking than the demons are, because the demons are very straightforward, horned looking fiends from the underworld, while angels are these almost cosmic level entities that are just as creepy. Like when I see something with the angels, I'm like, girl, that's cosmic horror right there. And it's prime time, baby. Multiple eyes on wings on every feather, floating wheels on fire, a big eyeball surrounded by a bunch of smaller eyeballs with these discs rotating around it with wings. The cherub, multi-headed man, lion, other animals on this little cherub body, like winged bird-like body with these wings and shit. It's insane. On some of these depictions, I'm like, were they high or were they smoking to come up with some of this stuff?
A lot of shit.
Why shouldn't they come up with some of this stuff? Just like see this stuff.
Zio, think about the time period.
That's fair. That's fair.
They used to shoot meth to take care of a flu. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm,
they were
thou
on some
shalt
shit.
not be afraid. Thou shalt be high. I am high and afraid.
They were, you know,
Girl.
like they were sniffing paints and
Yeah.
doing all kinds of shit,
Yeah.
you know. So
It's
I
just
wouldn't be surprised.
reading about some of the depictions of these angels, that's not really what I would call holy, though. It's just so it's weird. It's weird in like the greatest way possible. It's fascinating, is what it is. And I can sit here and I can just ramble about some of the weird stuff
I mean,
in
if we want to
there.
talk about horror, there's horror stories within the Bible as well.
Oh yeah, most definitely. There's also a theory about the demons' horns and the angels' halos. So what I find funny, it's not necessarily in the text, obviously. It's someone's just personal theory that I'm like, that would make sense. So you know how demons have the devil horns that kind of go up, they're kind of rounded, that almost kind of meet in the middle to a point. What if that's just a halo that's broke?
Interesting theory.
I was like, wow, that's interesting. Because the whole like depiction of we see angels and holy figures and old artwork is that there's the big old halo in the back behind their head, and it meets up in the circle at the very top of their head. What if a demon, their horns are nothing more than just a broken halo? Because a lot of the demons, like we see in the Bible, all fell from grace, like Lucifer. The angels seem very alien rather than something biblical. I mean, there is also a whole theory that God, the angels, and everything are nothing more than this advanced alien species, and Jesus is
ancient
half
alien
alien.
theory.
Yeah, yeah, that Jesus is half human, half alien. There's that. I wouldn't be surprised, because I mean, if it turns out that there are these godlike beings out there, they're alien to us. How would you define alien?
Something not from this world.
Exactly. They wouldn't be from this world. And there's just too many weird things, like depictions of like chariots on fire flying in the sky that you can kind of look at and be like, is that supposed to be like a UFO? What? There's a lot of weird stuff. And it's just sitting there, just absorbing it. You're just like, damn, this shit's weird. Mythology is weird. Religions are weird. Not weird as in a bad way, weird as in like a, what did people see? Like I would love just to go back in time to back where these stories came to be, just to see where they got these stories from. See it happen as it happens, you know? Oh gosh, where will I go from here?
What
I
about
mean,
some of the lesser talked about mythologies?
oh, well, some of the less taught mythologies, I mean, you got the Celtic mythology, which is very, very convoluted. We don't have a lot of it because a lot of it was destroyed and dismantled because that was more of word of mouth type of religion or mythology that was spread from stories told verbally. You got the Japanese and Chinese mythologies. The Chinese mythologies it's a lot because they have a god for literally everything. It's a lot. Like that's one of the ones I want to tackle one day, but I'm going to need like a whole big book on that shit because they have a god for every little thing. It's borderline ridiculous, but it's interesting. Let's see. There's the stories of Hinduism. Again, don't quote me. I'm not quoting here because I could be terribly wrong or very misinformed. And I might have taken this part out. But from what I gather when it comes to Hinduism, with the multiple gods in that one, they're not technically different gods. It's kind of like a Jesus, Holy Ghost, God scenario. They're all different, but they're all the same. If that makes sense. Like all the like Shiva and all these other deities that you see, or these entities you see in the Hinduism, are all technically parts of the same God, but they're all different at the same time. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, I could be wrong about that. I'm going to kind of check myself here. But that's what I remember from that. Because I have looked into that a little bit because I found it quite interesting. So Shiva is known as the destroyer within the Tiram, within this other group, this trinity of supreme divinity. So they all, I don't know if they're actually all part of the same god or not. I might be wrong.
Have you ever looked into the Aztec or Mayan gods?
Those are fun. I've looked into the Aztec. Which one is oh my god. I've been Mayan. Oh god, what's his name? The winged serpent.
Quetzalcoatl?
Yes, that's Aztec, right? Is that Mayan?
I think it's Mayan. I'm not entirely sure.
I am so terrible. I should know these things. I used to know these things. I think it's Aztec. Yes, I was right. It's Aztec mythology. Yes, I have looked into Aztec mythology, and not so much Mayan though. I looked into more of the Aztec. Aztec and Mayan mythologies. I do want to get onto the gods as well, and they'll probably be the next thing I hit up after I do a deep dive on the Abrahamic religions. But the Aztec is fun. It's fun. You got the winged serpent. That's the god of life, light, and wisdom. You got God. They have a god for the gays and lesbians. You have a god known as the Flower Prince. And he's the god of gay men. Like what?
That's funny.
It is. I'm gonna find his name right
he
quick.
Fucking would be.
God of gay men. The god of gays. Yes, he is the god of both homosexuals and male prostitutes. And I don't even know how to say that name. But apparently he's a hoot and a half. Like he's very chill, apparently. Yeah, he's known as the Flower Prince or Flower Child. God of love, Lord of flowers, young man, fertility, patron and male prostitution. I'm like, that's interesting. How progressive of them. So I think I've done enough journey around different parts of the world when it comes to different mythologies and topics to kind of get the mind rolling on the topic of mythology. Because again, I can go on all day, all night. We'll be here till next week. But I can't. So again, if you want more episodes on mythology, me doing a deep dive with different guest hosts throughout the last couple of years, go to Tea at the Gods in the description below. In the link tree.
I
You'll
also
find Tea of the
found
Gods. So
I also found a like Project Gutenberg. You can search on their website for different types of mythology. It can
yes,
be
link
alphabetical,
without
or
being
this one's also based on popularity. But yeah, you can
right.
look at the most popular myths as regards to mythology of any type, and they're all public
Mhm.
domain.
Work. I'll have the link of that in the description below for you all listening to. So again, Tea of the Gods. We'll be coming back at some point in the future. Bear with me. I'm working on it. It's going to happen because, again, I think about mythology quite a bit during my life, during my day, my normal day. Because if I'm not thinking about D&D, my personal D&D and the lore, I'm thinking about some lore in the world. I'm just like, huh. We are literally just creatures that tell stories.
Same stories.